investments of all kinds, negotiating, running a whole team of negotiators. And, we mitigated for homeowners, and we brought investment offers in and did short sales. And, we didn't really look at it like creative deals as creative deals like we look at it today, because now they just have like a moniker, or they have a stigma to it because it's like the influencer effect. But, we did deals, sometimes they were creative, sometimes they weren't. We bought things, sold them back, took them out of foreclosure, sold them on land contracts back to sellers, things like that. Did a lot of really strange stuff. So got a lot of experience for about 18 years in this whole real estate space doing this stuff. And in the last 2 years, since I went to the Sub 2 Mastermind, I started doing a short sale series and a Zoom series, and I've been doing that. So I've got a whole bunch in the vault, videos and all that. I learned a lot, and I had a lot of pain and growth moments, which is quite interesting, like how to figure out how to help people, but also how to disqualify. And I don't have that figured out yet, but I know like it's really important. You have to really evaluate what you look at. And one thing I see in most investors, like they have this idea, like I want this deal to work and it should be like this, and it's only because of their expectations. They don't know exactly what they're looking at sometimes. So I found the hard way with talking to people, well, you don't have a deal yet. Why? It's not a deal, it's just a lead. Like trying to figure that out and making something happen out of nothing versus, well, hey, let's take this to the bank and see if they'll negotiate it, because my price, I need it lower. So the banks aren't letting you steal from them. Like there's a whole rule book that an investor of a loan has on how to let it go. You're not in the loan trading business, you're in the loss mitigation business. So how do you handle that? And I learned quite a bit dealing with people's expectations, but how to communicate and understand where people come from and how to help people. And I've carried that on. I met Nahid, by doing the Zooms. I met Nahid, and for time we started working together, and here we are, with Shad, working with Shad and the team here. And that's my 3 minute talk on an elevator. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and Steve's humble, so he's probably not gonna say anything on camera right now. But
he's like, I'm done. I don't need to talk.
No, he's actually working one right now in Fort Worth. Steve's about to get a foreclosure. I don't know if you wanted me to share.
Sure.
But I just did.
Yeah, sure. Hey, thanks for sharing, Josh. That's a nice color. It seems like you've got quite a breadth of experience. I've been a real estate investor for over 35 years, but it's always been more of a hobby for me. I've always been an entrepreneur, building companies, buying companies, selling companies, etc. But I'm over 50, right? So I'm looking at more startup companies, and let's just stop all that stuff, because that's what young guys do, right? Like Shad. And so I stay away from that, and I look for the route that's a lot shorter and creating a portfolio. And so that's what I'm building right now, is just continue to build on or try to build our family's wealth through real estate. And I'm trying to do the least amount and make the most. So I'm interested in all facets, note buying, selling, but again, I'm just trying to thin my time out. And so and I love what Shad's doing, and he's just an incredible individual, and whatever I can do to add value to his life and what he's doing, I'm excited about. So, and we just got off we always have nice long calls. So it's exciting, and I think that there's some pretty unique opportunities to go after some of these niches like you're in, Josh. So I commend you for that. You put the blinders on, and you've put in the hard work, and you're obviously an expert in that field, which it's hard. I've never really necessarily been through what you've been through, but I know that those deals are not easy. They're complex. Yeah, we do have a deal I've locked up in Fort Worth. We've had to get the reinstatement now twice because we're not the timing, et cetera. But some close, some don't, right? So we'll see.
Some
That's
close, you know, I've been
fine.
saying lately, I've been using the baseball analogy because they are hard. Like you're gonna have a few like base hits and some, you know, a few home runs. Like once in a while you'll get that like the grand slam where the bases are loaded, but you're getting mostly fouls. Like really the batting average is just not good, but it's good enough to keep you going. It's not something like and it's hard because it's time consuming. Like literally we were on the phone today for 4 hours. I had one of our people on the phone just to ask the question, where can we send the full payoff offer in order to stop the sale next week? But she used the wrong word. The first person, she talked to 4 or 5 different people she called in, but she used the wrong word. And it was a training session for me. She used the wrong word. She said workout. These people are customer service reps. They're all over the world. They have a computer software system, just like we use with all of our tools too, right? The bank has a caller and a script. The word workout was pulled out. So now they're forced to go into like loss mitigation. All we wanted was to talk to somebody to stop a foreclosure sale. We didn't want to loan mod or do a partial claim. We don't want the reinstatement right away. Like it's all secondary to where are we sending this offer and how much do we think we need it to be? So, you know, like it is hard. And like you just said, like you're getting a second reinstatement. Well, you know, wait till it's the 4th. Then you're gonna start, you know, wondering, you know, the hair loss, the ulcers, like all sorts of stuff happen because of it's like there's a hazard to this part of the business. And it's not pretty. It's definitely not pretty. But when they work, when you help someone and you stop them, you save their credit, you stop them from having a foreclosure, and you make money on it, and they get what they want. Like when all of those things do align, it doesn't have to be like a big monetary win. It's still a very big win because it feels good. And I think that for me is one of the reasons why I'm in this space because I like talking to people enough that I can kind of navigate that and that makes sense. And our best success stories are always from like these look like really crappy deals.
Yeah.
And it's that human element that makes the biggest difference. Like, sure, we make $4,000 on a house that was sold for $4,000. Like, that's insane. Well, but we did better than anyone else did on that deal. But you know, it's the ones where you're into it and you only make $5,000 and you're onto it for 9 months, and you know, those are really hard. And they I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but they suck because they drain you spiritually. Like, yes, there's a labor cost, there's a time cost, but really, if you're calling and doing the same, oh, I have one, I don't know, it started in November. How many months is that? 7,
Yeah.
6 months right now? Like it started in November. It switched from whomever over to Mr. Cooper, you know, it switched the servicer. We had to go to start the whole process over. We've had to restart it like 3 times in there, resubmit the offer. Like we're finally like making progress right now. And the homeowner's just like, I'm in my house without having to do anything. So they're happy. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a trade-off, you know, it depends, but there's different aspects. Like, would it be nice to be able to turn around and like reinstate everybody's deal? Yeah, but they don't all make financial sense.
You have to look at the long game for sure on it, right? The average of all the whole year, how, you know, all your deals over the whole year and just break it down like that. I think Pace
Yeah.
Pace said, look at each phone call is like, you know, $1,000 or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
Or maybe 500.
you know, it's you know, working with Shad now, like the idea of having good KPIs and tracking. It's like, what should I be looking at next month that I've ignored the last month, right? Like, what's the next one that really? Because it's like I say to somebody on the phone today, you know, I can try to stop your sale, but I can't give you an average. It's like rolling a die. It's not like a coin toss, right? It's 1 out of 6, or what's the combination, right? And it's not like it's an exact science. Stopping a foreclosure sale, like you want to stop it? Well, how did it become a foreclosure to begin with? Lack of payment.
Right.
So pay it off, reinstate it, right? But it's not always an option. We had a mortgage today, balance is like 87, and I have no idea. They don't know how much their arrears are, but if the balance is $87,000, like, okay, in a worst case scenario, we're probably at 20 or 30 in arrears. Like that's a 200 plus range of ARV. It's not a terrible deal without doing any more homework on it. But it doesn't mean it's going to make sense to do that by the time we look at like the repair costs and everything else, or cash to the seller, what they want for their equity, that sort of thing. So you know, lots of factors that go into it, but helping people is really important. Obviously, we all have to get paid with it. But what I'd like to tell people most is like learning to speak with empathy and listening to people. And even I got frustrated today because I was speaking to a lead, and the lead's mother is the one on the phone. I'm like, I don't know how many times I said, well, should I be speaking with your daughter? When can I come over and take pictures? Can I take a look at the property? Like, well, we're not ready for showings yet. I'm like, well, are you ready to sell it? Because you're going to need someone to take a look inside in order to value your property. And then, repeating this stuff to someone who's in that position, like, oh my, we just learned we're in foreclosure because we just got a notice. Well, no, you are 4 months into this process that you either put your head in the sand, you've ignored, like they did. Like I even reviewed it last night with a couple of people here in Michigan, like the Michigan statutes. The lenders cannot foreclose until the 121st day. So you're late, you're in default, 30, 60, 90-day late. Those are the credit terms for being late on your payments. And that's all in default status once you miss your payment. So that's the first 90 days. The last part is where they send out a letter of intent. It's that next fourth month, that 120-day mark. And that is they send out that last letter saying, we're going to foreclose on you. We intend to foreclose if you don't do this, which is come and ask for help. Like the lenders are trying. If anybody's ever missed a payment on anything, the phone will ring. So you can't ever think that a seller doesn't know that they're not in foreclosure.
Right.
They bought a product, they used a product, they borrowed the money for it, and they ignored it when they stopped payments on it when people are calling them. Like, forget about the emotional aspect. Like, this is reality. You're either delusional or you're not. So, like yes, but when we talk to people, I can't talk like that. Like, I know this because I'm in the side of the business, but having some empathy, like I understand how it feels. Like I know it's like to kind of push something off, reprioritize things. Maybe things have a different weight value in my mind. Well, under this kind of stress, people have a lot of different values of what they look at, and they may ignore it. So when they're like, well, we just got this letter a couple days ago. Well, yes, you just got the actual notice, which is the legal proceeding. This has been 4 months minimum to get to this point. So this is brand new to you. You're just not prepared because, well, if I don't talk to the actual seller and ask more questions, I'm talking to the seller's mother. So it's kind of weird, like how to handle that and talk to them. Like, okay, I'm going to have to call you back. So I recognize I have there's going to be there already are other wholesalers or investors reaching out to this particular prospect, but I know it's 25-minute drive. I can take a look at the house. I know she told me the daughter lives there and she works during the day. So if I go tomorrow evening, like 5 or 6, I might be able to knock on that door. And I already know enough about it. Hey, I talked to your mother is a great way to open that door. But knowing these things and talking to people, and there's, how do you build rapport? What do you look for? How do you recognize the situation? How do you tell what's a lead, what's not a lead, what's a good deal, bad deal? Like, it becomes really complicated. If it was simply like, hey, this is an XYZ random seller of any lead type, and we have the parameters of what's the motivation? When do they want to sell? What are they looking for? Some basics there, we can create an offer. Here we have the complexity that we have to manage urgency and time in foreclosure. And some states are really fast, some are very slow. We have that, but the fact that it's in foreclosure is a lot of stress on people, that even though I just kind of laid it out in a non-empathetic way, like that's the reality. Like there's a debt issue and it has to be resolved legally. Like the banks have a right to that. So if you as a private investor, if I loan you money and you stop paying on it, in fact, I spoke to someone in sub 2 today. He was like, I loaned money. I don't know if it was like PML or a Gator style loan. He loaned money to somebody. They bought a house on sub 2. They stopped paying the lender's mortgage payments. I'm like, so he's like, what do I do? I said, well, what documents did you use to secure your loan? Deed of trust and a promissory note. Okay, is it recorded? Call a local attorney and foreclose on him ASAP. You're the lender. You have a right to it. Like, he's already failed the terms of the note. You've got to take action because there's a first and second mortgage and you need yours in priority first. So as a private lender, go do that. That'll at least ensure you're going to get paid. And it was a terrible arrangement. We could talk about those things other. It's not foreclosure, but the idea is here's a real situation where somebody ran into this as a lender. the point that I gave him that advice is like, as a lender, when someone fails to pay you, it's securitized by the asset, which is a house. So, like a mortgage is two things. It's a note, the IOU, the promissory note, and it's the security instrument, the actual house. So that's what the mortgage is. And when we look at it, post foreclosure or dealing with loss mitigation, whether it's loan mod workout option or a forbearance plan or a short sale, we're dealing with unraveling those things. And it really, what's the easiest way? Like I said a few minutes ago, it's a financial problem that the bank has no option. So I know that we should all understand that and sympathize or empathize with the sellers. But knowing this, can put us, hey, what are the options? And understanding like when those options don't work out for someone, we can spot that and recognize it and walk them through, guide them through the process. And sometimes when it's, hey, I want to stay in this house, and you can look at it and say, well, can you afford it if they modified your payment for a while? Can you afford a modified payment? No. Okay, well, you're going to have to sell. But you can't just flat out say that. Sometimes some people can't handle hearing that. They have to be shown that. And that takes time, and that takes patience and guidance, which makes that whole pipeline effect even longer. If you find the one that's like, oh, the numbers all line up, let's reinstate it for 16,000 and it's a 300,000 ARV, you can almost all the time get that deal through the finish line without having to do anything other than reinstating it and buying your time and remarketing it. Unless it's like a tear down or a full gut and it's, the numbers don't work. But if the numbers work enough, like you can recognize some of those lower, the arrears are low enough. This is the part where Shad's like, okay, let's change subjects. Let's find something to talk about. I was just going on there because you said something, and I was on the phone with the seller tonight, and it was just shocked. Like they're just not ready. They're not ready. And I know they're getting hit by people. How do I compete? Well, I could drive by and knock on that door with the information I already have, because they've answered the phone. They answered it to the cold caller. They've answered it to me, and they'll answer it again tomorrow when I call back. But I know that it's not an immediate thing. And it's too juicy, this one. The $200,000, let's say it was 220 was the Zestimate. Redfin was at 230. So if it's 200, let's just say if it's 200 ARV and the payoff is about 87, like I'm better off going to the auction and buying it almost all the time, unless it's a creative deal that makes sense. And I cannot answer that if I can't get inside the house. Because you can't sell.
Strategy?
Well, the strategy right now is just to build rapport, maybe even do a drive-by and call back tomorrow. Just have that next conversation.
No, but the strategy to let it go to auction, because we had that deal in Houston where,
Mhm.
we were about to offer close to 200 because the house is worth like 325, but at auction it sold for 162. So is your point that the house is worth like 200, 225? It's just let it go to auction and pick it up for 90, 95, 100, something like that, as opposed
I
to
mean, at least, do a drive-by and say, oh, well, the roof's okay. You can gauge some of it. Even if I can get in there, that makes it even better, right? Because then I have that strategy and knowledge. The information I have about the conditions, it's outdated. It might need some mechanical repair, but I can only guess right now, and I'm not going to do that because I'm not like Jamil, who knows every market and can gauge those sort of things like a science. I think I need to visualize it to determine that. But if I don't, I would say, like, as a strategy, getting an idea for the actual property, doing a drive-by, getting a feel for it, making sure like that ARV, like I'm comfortable with that, and yeah, going to the auction. Why miss out on that? There are investors that do, and there always has been, but they're much smaller pool of investors that go buy these things from the actual auctions. And the reason is because everybody's, at the front end of like, let's talk to the seller before. But sometimes it's easier. You find a few really good deals by going to auctions. So this play, if it's 87, is what the notice of default said, their balance is, give or take. That doesn't matter what their arrears is. So if it's 87,000, that's where the bid's going to start. If there's other Well, it's likely to go up to like 130, maybe 140. And I don't think, with what I heard today, I don't think paying more than 140 cash. I think 140 cash might be too much. If it was a fix and flip.
Yeah.
Depending on the strategy, like if I was, buy and hold investor looking to rent it, well, I didn't have to, if it's worth 200, then, if I could get, 1,800 for rent on it, then I might be willing to put in more money.
That's what, in Detroit or what city?
Oh, suburb of Detroit, Warren.
Is it a good neighborhood?
It's okay. It's not a bad neighborhood at all. It's definitely a rental market, and a flip market. But I know we had one at someone else here last week went to bid somewhere else in Michigan, and I don't know why he didn't bid high enough. He said it was like a 550 ARV, and he lost the bid at the auction. Somebody bought it for 150.
No way.
Yep.
Jesus.
I was like, why did you stop bidding? Like, you have the cash. Like, I don't understand why you didn't just
Yeah.
like. I don't know what the feel was at the auction. This was the first time he went to an auction, so I just know that 150. Even if you sunk 100,000 into it and it sells for, let's just say you discount it for 450 or five, rather than 5 or 550, like that's still a great deal.
Yeah.
So I guess that you can recognize those strategies when you see them up front and you have all the information. So like calling and having a cold caller or getting the information from like the prop streams and the prop wires, talking to the people that live there, like what the play is. And if it doesn't work out, like we don't have to do a short sale. We don't have to reinstate it. But it also might mean that we're going to compete with other people for that. So on the flip side, there is a value for getting a contract today, because then you have a contract.
Right.
Another thing to note, and maybe we talk about this state by state, but some states are redemption states. So Michigan has 6 months redemption, Ohio has 30 days, other states have varying amounts, some have none at all. And all redemption is a period that once the bank forecloses, regardless of who buys it at the auction, that has a period of protection that the homeowner can redeem it for that amount. So in
Yeah.
this case, this goes to sale for 87. Let's just say it doesn't get bid on, the bank buys it back. She's like already telling me, like, I don't have $87,000 to redeem this. I'm like, I'm only telling you what the process is. I know you don't have the money.
Right.
Like
Well,
that's
have you seen that get worked? Because I know that there's two plays, right? If it goes to auction, where it's still the deal is still in play, which is very unique, because in real estate, like with wholesale or whatever, once you lose a deal, you lose a deal. But with foreclosure, we got the surplus funds is one way and the redemption is the other way. Is there any other ways, or those are the only two ways to revive a lost deal?
it's not lost. What you lose.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, if it goes to sale, like I can still do a short sale and redemption. But with the numbers, they really have to make sense on short sale. Otherwise, you can go buy it at and pay them for the redemption rights. Now, as far as like surplus
So,
fund, how are you handling that?
well, that's Graham's department. So he'd handle that. But on this deal, like let's say that deal got bid up to 350,000, because at 150 redemption is the play, right? So how would that work? Because if this house is worth 550 and then you can redeem it for the 150, plus pay the seller maybe what, 25 grand on top of that, you're into it for 175. I mean, that's a hell of a deal. Like,
I
have
will
you
say,
seen one of those?
no. Well, yes, I've seen, yeah, yes, they happen, and they're not uncommon. But for them to make sense, like you have to win the bids, and there's a lot of equity with a lot of houses, and so some of these that are going to sale get stuck in the mix here with equity, and so in this case, like on this one, it makes sense. Yeah, you can pay the homeowner for the redemption rights, and that's exactly what I'm saying with the strategy. Like should pay them. The house that I mentioned here, that the 550 house,
Yeah,
it was abandoned. So that adds the next layer of, I wouldn't say complexity, but opportunity.
it's
And
abandoned. Is that what you said?
abandoned. So the state code says an abandoned property can be shortened up to 30 days instead of the full 6 months.
Okay.
So like
So,
that wouldn't apply in like
so-
Ohio. It's only 30 days for redemption, but it does
oh,
here.
that's fine. So let me ask you this just happened, right?
Last week.
Okay, so there's 3 weeks to go get this house still, right? So if somebody brings in, let's say 175K, and we get in contact with the seller, we could redeem it, like get it under contract with them that we're gonna buy the house at 175, we're gonna pay them 150. But isn't there a rule or a law, I thought you mentioned, or I heard somewhere, they have to come up with the money, like you know, somebody else can't bring in the money, is that correct? No?
I mean,
Okay,
if there is a rule for that, like that's not an issue. But you just have to manage that. But I've never heard that here in Michigan.
so if we can go raise 175K, and do we know how much repairs the property needs? No, we don't know that, right?
That I don't know. But you're leading up to something, which is if you know what it goes to sell for and you are in contact with the seller, then you can turn around and make a deal with the seller to pay that off and pay them and get money in their pocket. So here's the thing, the surplus funds with when there's overage, like the first mortgage is $100,000 and it sells for 120, that 20 will go to the homeowner. If there's a second mortgage of 20 and a first mortgage of 100, then 120 sale, nobody gets any money. If it's $100,000 on the first mortgage and only the first mortgage, and it goes to sale for 90, which is short, then what happens is there's no money that goes to the homeowner. So if it sells in this case in any price, they may have some funds there, but you could turn around and give them cash and say, I'll tell you what, you can redeem this, we'll pay for your redemption rights, and we'll take over the house and get them cash in their pocket. So there's definitely a little bit of an analysis between what's owed, how much it goes to sell for, are there funds that are going back at all to the sellers or homeowners, excuse me, they're not really sellers until they sell it.
So on this exact deal you're talking about, should we be looking at raising capital to go redeem this property?
I mean, are you asking me specifically, should we go like
Yeah.
work on investing in this house?
Yeah,
I can reach out and see if we can get into it, if it's possible. I know that there was an investment company and I know who represented them. I have their business card, who did the negotiation for them. So it was an
okay.
investor. If we can find the homeowner, yes. If it's something like a probate situation or somebody's deceased, then it's a, let's just not waste our time.
Give me give me the information. I'll look it up and we'll try to track them down. We got Jose and Kevin in the house right here. Graham's in the building. I'll track down the info. We'll have them hammer it. This is a whopper of a deal. And then I got my man Steve right here. He's got access to capital. So if this thing can make 200K spread, he'll go. He knows somebody that can bring the money.
By all means, when there's a 200K spread, we need to be doing that little Dick Van Dyke thing where you jump in the air and you click your heels together. Like it's definitely worth, it's celebration, but it's hard work too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. If it wouldn't be fun if it was easy.
I will say this, I talked to this, I don't know if I'm one of the Zooms here with you guys, but I had this deal and I've told you definitely, Shad, I told you that this deal was brought to me in like November, and the house was in Dallas, the people were in Maryland, and I was asked by the wholesalers, hey, do a loan mod to buy us time. And I looked at it and I'm like, are you telling me there's really a $600,000 ARV and the payoff is like three something? Like this is a $200,000 spread after paying realtor commissions and putting like the whole thing was just like, this was the kind of like home run play. And
Right.
I told him, go raise the money right now and reinstate it. It was like $32,000 to reinstate on a
No way. That's
$6,000.
crazy.
Their response
Crazy.
was, we don't want to raise the money and for that amount of time to put it on the market. I'm like, and it was like I had to scratch my head because like this is the difference, and I'm saying this for everybody here, between being an investor and working the deal versus being a wholesaler. And the difference
Right.
is the wholesaler's job is to get everybody under contract and sell the contract without putting any
Right.
money. It's like a board game. And
Right.
as an investor, your job is to be a problem solver. And in the foreclosure space, this is what we should all be excelling at, is learning to talk to people, find the problem, work on a
Right.
solution.
Right.
They're all to be creative, out of the box kind of things. So when we see
That's-
something that has that spread, just rest assured someone else is missing that opportunity because they're not looking at it. Like, to raise the money on that deal, they ended up raising the money and selling it to a cash buyer for a little less. It still was a sizable fee, but I think they lost $130,000 by not doing what I said.
Yeah. So, Steve,
$130,000 between everybody in this Zoom. Like, would we all like chip in time and energy to do that?
I got $10 on it right now. I mean, I haven't even looked at the deal, and I'll throw at least 10, maybe 20. I don't know. I gotta see what's for dinner, but I'll. Steve, if we bring these opportunities to you, is this something you and some of your capital partners might be interested in looking at, these type of deals?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay,
for
there you go.
sure.
Yeah. So yeah, Josh, like when we're offline, send me the address and the info. All I need is the address if you have that, and I'll do the rest. I'll get it in the team's hands. We'll call it. We'll see. That's a crazy deal. Like, I don't care how many repairs that house needs. Like, that's too big of a spread to.
Yeah, it may be a dead lead. So I'm just cautioning you, like, we don't have all the information right now. So let's look into it and see what we can do.
Well, I think for $350,000 spread, it's worth looking into at least.
Yeah, but I'm also being optimistic here. Like, we have to watch our expectations. Yes, you're right. If this turns out to be a dead end, then it's a dead end. But I'll look it up right now. And
Yeah, I'll connect with you or just text it to me. I'll get on it. And then we'll get the team on it tomorrow morning. One thing I wanted to work with you on is the foreclosure.team website.
Mhm.
You mentioned the redemptions for every state. Every state has its own redemption periods. I'd love to get a list of that put together, and then everybody on the team plus everybody watching online would be able to go to that resource and just see what, as a resource, what are the redemption periods for each state. So maybe we can connect on that, or maybe we have Parisa put some stuff together. She could research it if she's up to that, able to do that.
Right. I'm smiling when you say that, but yes, it's definitely something that we've talked about and we want to do, and we should definitely make a priority on that. I know it's a good resource to have, and resources similar to that, but that's also helpful for everybody who's actually contacting the sellers when you're talking to somebody in a state knowing
Right.
something about that.
Right.
Because one of the biggest things that people don't understand about the process is that redemption. So in a redemption state, people are like, the bank took my house last week,
Yeah.
or bank's taking my house in a week. Like, they don't understand that they have time. And that's what I tried explaining to this woman today on the $87,000 balance. Like, if you need time to move out and get your heirlooms or whatever it is that you want out of the house, if it goes to sale and you don't sell it to anyone, like, you have time. You're not going to be evicted until that period's over. So
What
yeah, what's that?
did we ever figure out what Texas's redemption period was?
Not that I remember. We did look it up. I'll look it up
We
right now.
looked it up that one day, but it was vague because it said 6 months and then it said 1 month, and I'm like, well, which is it? 6 or 1 or what? Steve, that might be something you want to look at. Like, if you really fat, juicy deals, it might be a good idea to have some paperwork lined up and ready, and then just throw a little bit of extra cash to the previous homeowner, so that their redemption rights, and that somebody like Josh here doesn't swoop in and steal a hell of a deal out from under you with
Right.
redemption.
Damn, 2 years?
Well, that's property taxes.
Yeah, it's different. I think that it's kind of confusing, so that's why I want to
Oh.
put like a cheat sheet together.
Yeah, it's definitely not cut and dry.
Yeah.
80 days.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that easy. I'm looking it up, like, okay, the information's insufficient right now.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't have to figure it out right this second, but just word to the wise, there is that redemption thing. I didn't know much about it until recently, and we started talking about it, and these guys are educating us on it. And then there's always surplus funds too for this niche, which Graham has done and he knows about, and that's a lucrative opportunity. If there's a good spread, you know, and on these deals, and I mean the few that we've already seen go to auction, Josh, like it's, man, these people are stealing these things at the county court steps. Like we had a 300 plus K ARV property sold for 162. You just said this 500K property sold for 150. I mean, these are like crazy spreads.
Well, they really are at the moment. I mean, a year or two back, they were bid up over 90% of fair market value, and now I don't know what's happened to change that. I've got some fresh surplus leads today from another source. 3 of them are over, 3 new leads over 200,000 surplus.
Really?
Yes, one of those 300,000 surplus. So it's
Wow.
not unusual because we've had this house price inflation, you see, quite fierce in some markets. So the surplus is there. So what they actually sell for at auction, and it looks like they're being sold fairly low from what you're just talking about. And I don't know what.
Well, I think it's case by case, right? Like these two particular properties sold for, you know, there was a really healthy spread on them, but I mean, you just said, what state are those in, Graham?
Florida and Ohio. And the 300, I got 308 in Palm Beach, a 298 in Odessa, Florida, and a 220 in Plantation, Florida. So Florida, actually, those 3. But there's plenty of 6-figure surplus out there right now.
Yeah.
And it needs to be 110 for us, because most of the time we commission if it successfully gets it signed and everything is 10%. So if you imagine 10% of 110, say, no, that's 11,000. You take out your, you know, you got your attorney fees and notary and things like that. So you got the expenses, and you can either include them or exclude them, depending on how you want to manage that.
Who has to pay the realtor fees? Like we have to pay it, or the homeowner can also be charged that?
There's no realtor fees in surplus funds.
Not the realtor fee, the lawyer fee.
Lawyer fee, yes, we would have to pay that up front, so we're at risk with that. So I have to make sure there's a surplus before we engage the lawyer and have all the paperwork signed and ready.
Okay. Yeah. Remind me to talk to a lawyer friend that I have that I want to run this idea and see if there's anything there. Because I don't know how much paperwork's involved, but I feel like, I mean, it should be somewhat straightforward, right? We can talk about that
For the
offline.
lawyer. Yeah, it's very straightforward for the lawyer. We get the agreement in place, and there's some paperwork that needed. Might be a death certificate that's needed. It depends on the circumstances.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got about 20 minutes left in tonight's Zoom. Does anybody have any foreclosure questions for Josh?
That derailed it from the beginning. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I think this was for
I have a question.
questions.
I have a question.
All right.
It'll be an example. Let's say that I'm buying a property through owner finance. And he files foreclosure. Does he still have to follow standard procedures, like given the options, reinstatement, loan modification, all those options?
You're buying it from a seller who's financing.
Yes.
It's a seller finance.
Oh, owner finance. Yeah.
Owner finance,
Yeah.
finance.
Yeah, owner finance.
So, but it's not subject to an underlying mortgage, though, right?
No, so I sold.
No.
I sold Graham a house. Graham sold me a house. He owner financed it. Owner carried 100% of it. It was paid off. I've stopped paying Graham now. Does he have to do the whole workout with me and like give me 91 days and then give me the, try to work something out and do all that like Bank of America does? Or because I'm a mom and pop lender and I'm not accredited and all that good stuff, I could just.
That is an excellent question. There's a difference, and it should be state by state. So like I would look into that statewide, because you're seller financing it, you're not creating a note and mortgage as a money lender, like Bank of
Oh,
America.
so it's not technically a mortgage, it's a seller
Right.
finance.
Right. It's a type of it's a self-financed deal, which is
Mhm.
not the same as creating a mortgage. You're creating equitable interest for the party, but it's not the same, not like promissory notes and the, in the deed tied into the mortgage and having a big document that has to get unraveled. If it's a private money mortgage, that might be different. That I'd have to look that one up. But I would say follow the state's specific guidelines on owner financing. And it shouldn't be that hard. Like just look up owner or seller financing on that state, like foreclosure. Like how do I foreclose on a seller financed property? You don't have to give that time frame. Like that 30, 60, 90 days is credit standard, but I looked it up and spoke about it the other day with someone, and I even gave out like what it came from MISHDA, the Michigan, you know, the Michigan website. It specifically says like this is what happens, and then it says according to the statute that last 90 to 120 days, the fourth month, is where they're telling you we intend to foreclose. They're not allowed to foreclose until the 121st day, but that's to protect people, and that comes from the big fallout of the banks and all the stuff that happened prior to 2012. And there's a lot of protections that went into play that are still into play, nobody talks about, but they're still there to protect the consumer. But to answer the question, if you are buying a property owner financed and you fail to pay on it, and they have an opportunity to foreclose on you without going through any workout options, giving you any of those rules, it's a seller finance deal. It's not the same.
So they don't have to give you the options, they don't want to.
Well, you have to follow the state's foreclosure process, which might simply just mean you just need to give a due notice. So like here in Michigan, we have a 4-week advertisement. So notice of default comes out and we have to advertise that publicly. I would have to do the same thing for you. So if I owner financed you my property and you stop paying, I have to make that public notice and advertise it for 4 weeks. I don't have to give you the 120 days in waiting to do that. So that's the difference that I'm trying to impress here, is that there is a specific routine and law per state on how to foreclose. That has to be followed. That being said, prior to the filing, the legal filing, that 120 days isn't applicable in this case on owner financing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to be clear, Josh, I want to make sure I get this right. If I sell or finance a deal, I don't have to wait 91 days. I can, at what, 30 days late, or how many days? Every state's different, right? But
Depends on the contract you have.
yeah,
Like, let's go to contract law. You say in 30 days, if you're past 30 days late, we're going to come after you. Then you could follow that, but you don't have to go to the code that a mortgage does if you're not recording a mortgage and you're a big entity. Like, I wouldn't worry about that. If you're just an individual owner financing, you're just making it easier to make the deal get done, and you're not protecting yourself or the consumer, and those protections are for. So just to keep it simple, if I owner finance the property, or you owner finance the property, Graham, and he fails to pay you, you can just give him a notice, because that's what the law requires in your contract is going to stipulate.
But what if I have the money? What if I have the money to pay whatever I'm behind? Arrears.
Then paid off.
Well, what if you don't give me the option?
You might not have a
Like you
choice.
said,
We'd have to look at the contract that it says what
yeah, that's what I told her, depending on the contract.
I mean, is this a situation where you're trying to solve with somebody who's in this situation?
Yes,
What state is it in?
it's in Texas.
If
She only
it's-
owes 19.
Yeah,
19,000.
the one I'm
Oh,
thinking about, Jose,
how
that's
much?
got vendor's lien on it. I looked at
19.
it.
I put it on the chat, Shad.
Yeah.
John.
You sent it to me directly? Oh, in that group chat, send it to me directly.
Okay, I'll do it right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, how much is on the note left?
She only owes 144 and the property's going for like 279. And she's behind 19,000.
And she's trying to pay the 19 off?
Yes, but if that option is not available, well then she would be interested in selling.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. So Steve, I don't know if you can hear me, but there goes what you were talking about earlier with the private note. So, all right, send me that information and well, we're gonna look into it. Things are getting interesting around here. Got some things
That's
cooking.
worth looking at as well. It's marked as a vendor's lien, and those are I would consider as a very hot lead. Yeah, because they're usually owner finance when it says vendor's lien.
Say it again.
It wasn't a warranty deed. It was a vendor's lien on the record.
You looked at it?
Yeah, in RPR. It had it listed as a vendor's lien.
A vendor's lien?
Yeah. Vendor's lien. And I've
You
seen
said it
that
wasn't
before.
it wasn't recorded? The loan?
Yeah, it's probably recorded, but recorded as a vendor's lien, not a warranty deed.
Okay. I don't know, what effect does the warranty deed have on it versus a lien?
You've got title, well, warranty deed. You might still owe some money. That's what you see when you buy a house through a lender, right? A mortgage, you'll have a warranty deed quite often. But the owner finance, I've seen this before. It doesn't say owner finance. It says vendor's lien. So
Oh, really? Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. So there you could create a filter to filter those out.
Graham, connect with me after, and I want to talk to you about that, so,
Okay.
yeah. Tonight's, Steve's lucky night. Literally everything he talked to me about came up tonight on this call. He talked to me about like 3 things, all 3 of them we just hit nailed, every one of them. Steve, you need to come around more often, bro. Come watch these Zooms every Wednesday. This is good luck.
Nice.
All right. So Josh, I'll connect with you tomorrow. We got a bunch of stuff to cover anyway, because you said you wanted to talk tomorrow, right? You have a meeting with Gabby tomorrow?
Mhm.
Yeah, you guys will all be in the office tomorrow, or you'll be in the office tomorrow, the virtual office?
Yeah, I think we were just using my other Zoom so we could record today, but we're here.
Okay. You can record here. All you gotta do is just ask either myself or just ask who's host, and I'll figure out who's host, and then I'll give you host capabilities. You guys can record. Plus, I think I gave I said Loom access. I'll give you guys all Loom
I
access.
mean, I ran some Looms while we were doing it, but I left to pick up a kid and I gave her like remote control of my computer because she was having trouble getting into the Equator system. So we managed. But yeah, we're around. We'll be there.
All right. Yep. Bet. Sounds good. Graham, I'll connect with you right after this call. And then, yeah. Cool. We got a few minutes left. Let's use our time. Jose, great question. We'll look at that, that lead and work all that. Who else has questions? Who's got foreclosure questions? Anybody? Bueller? Nobody? All right. Man, you're killing it, Josh. They got no questions. I mean,
I think I put them all to sleep with storytelling to Steve. Like he didn't even respond. He's like,
you did such a good job. They know everything now. They don't have questions, so we're good.
The thing is, like, I kind of like fly by my pants, like, hey, this is what's happened today. Let's, and I just share my thoughts on stuff. So, dealing sometimes when I get dirty with talking to the sellers or talking to the bank and get my hands into it, like I actually have some stuff to share, as opposed to like, let's just role play, answer questions, look up some information. But I thought that was really good that there were some interesting things that I learned this week, by talking to people. And again, it's, we always have to remember when we talk to sellers, it's like build that rapport and have that empathy. And like you asked me like what the next step was with this one, and I'm like, I have to keep calling this person. They're not ready to sell. Like when there's meat on the bone, we don't give up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Disqualify when it's clearly not going to work out or not a deal. Like, yes, we need to do that quickly, and we all have to get better at recognizing that. But at the same time, when there's definitely a deal and we can get it under contract, then we got to work towards that.
Oh, that was the other thing I was gonna ask was, I don't know what the best way to do this, but like my integrator brain is kicking in. And the people that are being difficult, which these guys are running into people that are like, I gotta figure it out, don't call me, blah, F off, blah, blah, blah. One, finding a way to track those to see how many go to auction. And then if they do, then tracking for two purposes: one, for surplus funds, and then two, to see how much meat is on the bone for redemptions and whatnot. I think like coming up with those, because I know the team's already working on, admin team and myself are working on a tracker to know auction dates. So when we talk to people, like I think we determined 3 weeks before. 3 weeks before auction, we're gonna like really hit those individual, leads aggressively again. The ones that weren't like cooperative and say, yeah, I gotta sell and blah blah blah.
Yeah, no, but that is really good. Like if you want, like it was a topic that came up today in sub 2. If you want to get a deal, like go after those people that are 2 weeks out. We're really looking for the ones that have equity or the ones that have like a not so much a divorce, but more like an inheritance when the sellers and owners are deceased. It's easier to work a deal sometimes when there's someone who's inherited the property and they just want to cash in on it.
They don't
So
live in it. Yeah.
it's always easy to negotiate when there's equity.
Yeah. Yeah, but we won't really know that until, well, I get, we could scrub against some information like online, but that's not always accurate. So the best way is to get on the phone with the bank, right? But they have to cooperate with us to know which ones to really chase after and which ones to not chase after,
They
right?
definitely have we definitely have to talk to the bank to find out a lot of the details, but does it have equity? You could go to all the sources out there that just calculate like,
Have-
okay,
Yeah.
they just do the amortization calculation, like, oh, we're assuming a 6% mortgage interest, right? So their payment's going to be this and this, so this is the estimated equity on it.
So are those like PropStream, PropWire, all these like tools are pretty somewhat accurate? I know they're not perfect, but they're somewhat accurate. Because that's basically what they do,
Well,
right?
here,
They
let me
see
say, like,
principal
so
balance.
PropWire specifically says 6%, right? And it says that they assume 6%. They know the mortgage origination date. If they don't have the interest rate in their database, they're calculating 6%. If it was a 4% interest rate, do you think it's accurate?
No, I wouldn't, but I mean, yeah, they'd
I mean, it's an educated guess. It's an indicator. It's not really accurate, but uh,
well, is there a better way to do it then? I mean, there's no other resource out there to check, right?
and we're gonna have to really knock our heads together on that because that is an interesting data point if you can solve that.
Yeah.
Either way, we have the ability to handle them when they don't have equity, when they're negative equity, when there's low equity, and when there is equity. So like, should we focus all our energy on that? I don't know. Some of our energy, I don't know, but we just get better at the people that we get in front of us and either qualify them for what they are and working those leads and making sure we don't lose them and get more efficient at that, I think is better at the bottom line for everybody's pocketbook. But also, hey, which ones are definitely not a deal? So let's not waste our time on it. Like learning to let go of some of them faster is a really hard skill. So, yes, some of them are going to be you know, not going to fit the short sale. Some are not going to fit, you know, redemption, creative purchase, or a cash purchase. And hey, we can't make this person happy. They're not willing to talk to us, and they're running out of time. So then what is that option? It goes to sale. Then we have to then here's your integrated brain. Then it goes into the next opportunity phase. How do we find surplus funds or redemption issues, or what can we do? Are there other opportunities that we don't know about today because we haven't, you know, played in that part of the arena?
Well, yeah, that's where we'll build up that pipeline of like everybody working leads is, you know. And that, I think that's the beautiful thing of this whole thing coming together is, hey, just because it went to auction doesn't mean like just worry about building rapport with the person and work the lead. Because the thing I love about this queue is there's 6 different ways to monetize, there's 6 different ways to help, there's 6 different ways to, you know, work this thing. So, you know, all we need is pick one. Right, even after the auction, there's still 2 more ways to work this thing. So it's there's no other list or any other opportunity out there like this.
Yeah, there's just variables, too many variables. You're right. Don't forget though that I think if we train ourselves, like as a group, if we all get a little bit better in our skills, and we can see knowing information leading up to a sale, we can now, all these things are going to fail rather than disqualify. Does this fit as a candidate to buying at the auction itself? Like obviously that's going to be a cash purchase, but if you know the condition, you know the homeowner, and then that also plays into the, hey, can you redeem it and pay for the redemption rates? Like, you're right, there's a lot of options here that we have to be aware of and to recognize. And I think that it's not always easy. We all are going to miss something sometimes, but if we all start looking at things differently and review them more, we're better at capturing them.
Yeah, I forget who I was talking to. I don't remember if it was you or who I was talking to, but that's one of the huge advantages is like, everybody at the county court steps, like how many of those people actually saw the inside of the house or know the story or what's going on with it, with that particular address? They probably just saw a picture on Google of a street view, an aerial view, and you know, they're like, you know, they ran a couple comps or whatever at best, and then they're just out there bidding. Well, if we do this right, even if it goes to auction, you know, then that's one of the 6 different ways that we can get this thing is, okay, so we know what the deal is, we know how much repairs it needs, we know what it is, we know exactly what the max bid should be. That's extremely valuable information. So yeah, I think this is like phenomenal. So this is the right path. Hey Bagu, I know we got a couple minutes left. I saw you had your hand up. What's up, dear? Thanks for hopping on tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I just came on like 10 minutes ago, so put my camera on. Hi there.
Hey,
So I have a question actually. So I have been consistently door knocking 3 days a week, and I'm noticing something that I'm falling in challenge with, and I think you might have just answered it because I noticed some people their date is long. It's like they're a month away, so they're not getting response. So I'm thinking maybe I should change my strategy of getting closer to the date of the auction or not. So I just was wanting to ask that question. Because right now
what
oh, go
the
ahead.
specific question is how to determine when the date of the auction is, or
The question is, so I'm doing it at 2 different counties, one in my county that I'm at, and then another
yeah.
an hour away from where I'm at. And
Mhm.
the way that so far I have the strategy. I'm not sure if it's a good strategy, but the way I have it is a month out, like when the list comes in
Mm.
the newspaper 4 times. So when it comes out the first week, I go the first week, and then I go to second, and I go to the third. But I'm not sure if that's. I'm noticing I feel like I'm wasting a lot of time. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Maybe that's maybe it's accurate and inaccurate. I'm just noticing I'm knocking a lot of doors, but I'm not getting a response yet. Um, or I need to
Yeah.
change my strategy closer to 2 weeks and not go every week. And I've been going 3 days and maybe go 2 days. But I just started. It's been a month, but I'm thinking maybe should I continue for
How many
another.
doors have you done? You know, like, are
So
you keeping track?
yeah. So far, I'm averaging 30 doors and I do for 3 hours
Okay,
and I'm doing,
so 30 doors.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm doing
how-
30 doors.
And then how many times have you knocked each door?
So I've been keeping track so far. I'm going one, each door I'm doing it twice.
Okay,
So I'll go Mondays and the way I'm doing it right now is I go on Mondays and Wednesdays and I do the same doors on the Mondays and Wednesdays, and then the one I do on Wednesdays, those are the ones that I've decided, the ones that are the auction that's coming up this week. Those are the ones that I do on a Wednesday. But I'm wondering, by listening to you guys talk today, if I should change my strategy or not.
well, I'll just tell you what, because I haven't door knocked, but when I tell you what Michael Frankie, who's done a bunch of them from door knocking, said, 100 doors 3 times, that's 300 knocks. Before you can even really start to feel frustrated. So that doesn't mean that you knock 100 doors 3 times, that's 300 knocks, that you're gonna guaranteed to get a deal. That just means like that's about where you should be to get a deal. Where are you at, California?
Yeah, I'm in Northern California. I'm
Yeah.
door knocking in Sonoma and Mendocino.
Okay,
Sonoma County, Mendocino.
yeah. And then are you getting like conversations? Are you having combos or?
Yes, I am getting conversations, but I haven't had anything. They've left my number, left contacts. I have been getting conversations that say yes.
I saw a really funny thing in Sub 2, a post today. It said, did you see that one?
No, I didn't.
He goes, if you want a 110%, or I think it said like 107% answer rate. The note said, I'm pregnant, call me. And then they said, not only the men call right away, the women call right away to see what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I
It's
have to go
clever.
see that one. That's funny.
That's how you get people to answer. But joking aside, yeah, it's not enough. So Bagu, I'll talk to you. One thing that we were talking about, are you close to Cody? Are you guys close? Like,
Yeah, Cody's probably a good hour and a half from me, guessing.
okay, so I'm
Not too
assuming
far.
that the county you're knocking is not his county, the hour
It's
away.
not his county, but I could help. It's not. He's in Silly's, so he's about 2 hours away, almost 2 hours away from me.
All right. Well, because one thing we're going to look at is pulling some lists up there in those areas, calling everybody we can't get a hold of, then give you that list. Then you go. So connect with me. Let's see what we can work out and get a game plan, because I've been looking to experiment with that strategy. Right. Because
Okay.
if we get them on the phone, it doesn't make sense to go driving around the world, because it's not easy, right? 3 hours, are you knocking 30 doors in 3 hours?
Yeah, because some of them I noticed I'm knocking more. Some are not home, so I maybe how I'm tricky now. You made a really good point. I realize I'm not actually counting all the doors, the people that I'm only counting the ones that said yeah, like I'm made a contact with, like they responded.
no.
It's not like a yes or no, but
Yeah,
it's not
you got to count every door, as
okay.
far as I know. Josh, if I'm wrong about anything or you got anything to chip in, I mean, please, hop in here.
Door knocking is a hard game. With foreclosures, if that's all you're hitting, it's hard. Like I know there's a lot of the success stories you see out there, especially in sub 2. What's helpful when door knocking is keeping your eyes open and going after the houses around the door knock target. Like if you're just going to a foreclosure 123 Main Street, well, when we did this in real estate as realtors, we would go up and down the street. You go to your expired, you do 5 on this side, 5 on that side, and 10 across the street. So when you go to that location, you're hitting 10 doors. Now, what we're looking for here isn't always like that, because we're looking for distress. But if you can see something that's abandoned, or talk to the neighbor. If you don't get a door knock answer, maybe if you've gone back once or twice, talk to a neighbor. Have been trying to reach that, the owner of that house over there. They haven't been able to answer. Have you seen them around? How can I get a hold of them? Just something that works casually in conversation. But definitely you have to hit a door many times. Like you can't just expect like, oh, I hit this door once and then I don't go back to it multiple times, multiple times throughout the day. Like I know like it's a grind. I did do a door knocking challenge a few years ago, right after the pandemic lifted. And I was doing neighborhood by neighborhood. So instead of, when I went to the foreclosures or the expireds, like they were just so far apart. The foreclosures were at that time. It was just too hard to do. Now it's a little bit better, but really it's a matter of time. So you got to keep your eyes open for the opportunities around in the neighborhood. And that is a list building that's striving for dollars. So, we are looking for nice houses that don't need a lot of work. Of course we are. So we're not going to necessarily be in a neighborhood where there's a lot of rundown houses, but I'm in a $400,000 neighborhood and there's some people that just don't care about their lawns. They do a lot of really silly things that just aren't like I would look at. But, and then again, I cut down the plants on the side of my house and I don't like to do all the weeding, so it doesn't look great. But I mean, I have my yard taken care of. But I mean, I'm talking like even in this neighborhood, like you can go through there and you can drive through. Like, just like I was driving through with my girlfriend. She's like, "Does someone live here? We should go knock on the door." I'm like, "No, the kids go to school with my son. Like, I know this." But by looking at that house, like you never know what the situation is. So you can build a list in any neighborhood. It's just a matter of, what are you looking for? What's your target and your time? Door knocking is a hard way to do it. It can be done. It just, you have to be relentless and you have to track your numbers. You're already talking about it here after what, 30 days about changing something. So you have to do one thing for 90 days. Maybe you do change little tweaks and improve, but you have to be consistent. And that's the thing, is this consistency and tracking to see what works and what doesn't. I did work with somebody in California. He spent 90 days door knocking in California and then realized that's just not his market. And he started having success as soon as he started marketing outside of his local area into a different state. Like he was able to have success. But he was frustrated every week, like not getting anywhere. So even if you get the doors opened, it could be a positive or negative experience. And I'm kind of talking in a circle about it, but I think keep track of your numbers and stick with it and hit those doors several times. If it's worthwhile, like if you've done research, find the person, find the next of kin, do a skip trace, find the people, relatives, because that's where you're going to find, like, what if the house you go to and you knock on it, it's in foreclosure because the person passed away and they're not there. How are you going to know just by door knocking? So like you're spending your time on that lead without that knowledge. Like that's information, like that's a data point. That's part of your list building. So I do agree door knocking is a great strategy. It works really well when you complement it with a lot of insights and being consistent.
I would also say, Bago, make some good notes. So is there a car in the driveway? If there is, I would make a note of what that car is, the color and everything. And so the next time you knock on the door, you can see if the car is there or not. Things like that. Notice if the mail has been picked up, you know. So make notes like that, signs that if somebody's there, I would go out. So if you're brave enough, you can go at night and see if there's a light on, for example. And which room is the light on? And then next time, see if it's changed, because you might have automatic lights, And I don't know about the legality of this, but if you're quiet enough about it, I would take a picture of the house when you draw up to it as well. So, because might notice changes the next time you knock on it. So, yeah, and it is very good to talk to neighbors because they, just as Josh said, they'll give you more of the story, and you need more of the story. So.
Yeah. The good thing is I'm going with someone else, so I'm not by myself. So,
Oh, and the other thing, go on Sundays as well.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
exclude that day because that's the most likely day somebody's home. I know we work 7 days a week these days, but it's still a good chance that somebody's home on Sunday.
Wow, these are awesome. Thank you.
All right, good stuff. Bagu, I'll reach out to me like tomorrow or sometime soon, and what we can discuss. Going on, putting something together for your local area there.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Houston, what's up, man? We're wrapping up. I'll give you a call in just a second.
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Doing good, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. You too.
Before we wrap up, any foreclosure questions for Josh?
Nothing burning. I think we had just the one that I sent over to Nahid, and she was saying that it'd probably be the best idea for them to just get a loan modification, and so she's like working them through that right now. I guess is there an instance, and this may be different because they're like military, is there like extra leeway for like VA, like veterans and stuff, when do like as far as like loan mods or like forbearance, extra leniency at all?
There are guidelines that need to be followed if it's a VA loan. So it's not like there's extra variance. They're either going to qualify or they're not. Like they're not going to give them like, oh, well, thank you for serving our country. We're going to bend the rules. They still borrowed money, used a product, and failed to pay on it. So they have to follow like whatever the guidelines are from that. Now the VA loans or FHA, like they both have they're HUD-backed agencies, and they do have guidelines as far as what they can do. They're trying to keep people in their homes. They are already as lenient as possible. But it really depends on what they can afford. Is it something that can they do something like a partial claim, which is taking the amount of money that was missed, payments, the arrears, and making that like a silent second and not having them pay for it? Do they really need to lower their payments? Like can they afford whatever structures out there, and will they follow it? It's really an analysis. It's not so much are they going to get extra leniency simply because they're a vet. Like I don't think that really applies, and I don't mean to say that in any negative way. It's just that if it's a VA loan, like there are VA guidelines, and same with like from HUD, from FHA. There's the pre-foreclosure workout and the pre-foreclosure sell program, and there's plenty of resources to help people. So getting them to go those routes, it's going to boil down to, can they afford this or not? And if they can't afford it, unfortunately, they're going to have to sell the house. I mean, in our business, we want to help as many people as possible, and few of them are going to qualify for a modification, a workout, or one of those programs. Few of them do, and that's good, but many of them can't. And when they can't, like, it's our job to kind of understand how to help them. There are resources out there for people who've fallen behind. There are agency programs to keep people in their houses. There's still some protections from COVID, at least in like part of the FHA and VA HUD guidelines as far as like the pre-foreclosure sale. I think we have until next year that some of those will still be in effect. Until we don't see like all the funds that we had, like there were funds state by state 2 years ago. There was money keeping people in houses for 2 years that didn't pay. Did they deserve it? Probably not. There was a lot of people gaming the system. Right now, I think that if you have someone who's a vet and they have a VA loan, like they can afford to make a payment and modify it, like get them into the workout program as soon as possible. And I don't think there's any extra leniency with that. It's just either they're going to qualify or they're not. If they need a variance because something else has happened to them, it's not because they're a vet, it's because of their situation.
Yeah. Okay. No, I appreciate you like
What if they're
providing more value.
active duty though? If they're active duty, then
The active duty they can't foreclose on active duty.
Oh, so this is interesting because they're actually going active duty next month, and they're in like pre-foreclosure. They're like $18,000 in arrears.
Yeah, that's probably I don't know if that's going to help them at all. It's probably too late, but who knows? Without any more information, hey, what state is it? What's the date of a sale? Is it scheduled already? What can they do? And I don't
Mhm.
know. I would say have them call the bank ASAP and
Yeah.
to the bank. Banks don't want to foreclose. I mean, I don't care that these houses have equity. It's not like they're getting all the equity.
Interesting.
It's expensive for the bank's job. Remember, the bank's purpose is to create money and lend it.
Mhm.
So they're not,
I love the create money.
but that's what they do. Like
That is what they do. That is what they do. Fractional lending. Yeah. Yeah. That's what they do.
they're making money on
Yep.
money. They're
Yep.
making notes and
Mhm.
interest, and that's what they're in the business of. And they're not property management. They have to hire all of these people in the whole chain to acquire the property, get it ready, put it on the market, and sell it. Like it's not cheap or easy or quick. But like loss mitigation, whether it's a workout for modifying it, keeping someone in their house, it's still loss mitigation. It's taking a non-performing note and turning it into a performing note. Short sale is taking a non-performing note and selling it by selling the asset and cutting the loss. It's now off the books. So their books look better so they can go create and lend money.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question. I would Houston, I would ask and see what their interest rate is. Is it a good interest rate?
Yeah. It's like 4.5.
Oh, not bad. How much are their arrears?
I think it was like 18,000.
So I mean, you might have a creative deal right there, you know? Did you already
But
try it?
it's just worth exactly how much they owe on it. And it needs a lot of work. And so it's
And not,
gotta be a short sale or something.
yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a short sale.
Yeah. So
not pass on
that's
that?
that's what we're pushing towards. But I could read the email, but she was saying that she was saying that they probably qualify for this particular thing, and she's coaching them to go get that. But then from what Josh said, I mean, it's basically all in the follow-up because a lot of people don't end up getting approved for these things. And
Well, they probably won't even do the paperwork to follow up in the first place, honestly, right, Josh?
that's a sad
Most of the people
truth.
don't even do
They're crossing the T's, dotting the I's. They miss one little thing that they're told to do, and they're out. So whether it's
Yeah.
submitting a document to them
Mhm.
in time or signing the acceptance, etc. Like I just had this yesterday. Hey, they're foreclosing and they didn't notify me. I'm like, no, they notified you. You just didn't see something. Like there's no way. They did not know. Like there's so few when they improperly foreclose. They're just not, I mean, they can happen, but it's not likely.
Yeah.
The thing is when he's telling someone, I'm coaching them through a workout kind of modification, by all means, let her do that. It's creating a pipeline because chances are you're going to know right away, either it's going to work or they're going to be coming back to you at some point. So it is your pipeline. And at the very least, helping them out and having the resources, someone's helping you, like you have a follow-up point and you're doing them a favor, they can refer you business or something down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a good will come out of that. So there's no, I mean, while I love to say, let's do it in a short sale, let's get it into the pipeline to sell and buy and do something with it. But, this is part of the pipeline is handling people who want to stay. So if that's what their expectation is, like helping them until either A, their expectation changes, or B, that there's no hope for that. Like you have to kind of walk them through that, even if we think like, oh, we know what their situation is going to turn out.
I mean, like, yeah. I was about to take a bad analogy to that, but yeah.
Josh, I know you got to jump off. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We're here every Wednesday. You guys know where to find Josh and Nahid for all the foreclosure and short sale questions. We got some good things cooking.
Here in the morning.
What's that?
We're here in the morning.
Yeah. For all the team members, you guys can hop on the virtual office. Houston, I'll get you the link to all that. You can hop onto that. We'll connect. I'll call you in just a minute. Cool. Steve, appreciate you coming out, brother. Good seeing you today and catching up. Bagu, I'll talk to you soon. And Graham, I appreciate y'all. Graham, I'll call you in just a minute. I wanted to ask you a couple questions about that thing. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys. See you
Thank you.
guys